What's up, y'all? You're listening to the Extra Point College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Carnes, joined as always by my co-host, Daniel Hammock. Daniel, it was nice to do that intro from Muscle Memory now that you're back. David had made fun of me, or not, he didn't make fun of me. He asked how hard it was to not say Daniel Hammock whenever he was on with me on Tuesday. He was like, I know that's Muscle Memory. He was like, I know that was hard for you. I was like, yeah, honestly, it was hard, but good to have you back.
Break a little sweat.
Right. You and I both on vacation last week. So, got a little break in, had a break in one episode. Glad Dave was able to fill in for an episode, but always better when you're back.
I feel esteemed that a CBS sports writer had to fill in for me while I was out. Little old me, but appreciate David Cobb filling in, just friend of the show. He's awesome. Loved listening to you guys. So definitely great to have him and his insight. But yeah, I'm glad to be back as well. This just feels right on a Saturday full of fun college football.
I'm looking at his record. I didn't calculate it yet. So he went 1-2, 1-3, 1-4, 1-5. Hey, 2-5. So for what it's worth, you went 5-2. So if there was any question as to who is filling in for who, you went 5-2 this week. So shout out, Daniel. Let's just start there. So that last pick that got you to 5-2, we actually all three took Oregon State in the points. This game just wrapped up. It's 12:53 here on the East Coast. USC holds off Oregon State. At the end of the day, Oregon State, 3 turnovers were too many. But hey, USC's high-flying offense, 350 yards. Caleb Williams only had 180 yards passing. It definitely looked pedestrian today.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the theme that we're going to kind of get to throughout the day is it wasn't necessarily a letdown Saturday, but it was definitely a slowdown Saturday for a lot of teams, and stubbing your toe. Jacob, it seems like Oregon State may have been the better team, and those turnovers prevented them from winning. So you were on it early with Oregon State in general. And then, we all just were like, let's just jump on these points against USC and see what happens. And we're all compensated with the cover.
If I had to pick right now, I keep forgetting that there's no North and South this year, but the schedules line up that way. I mean, Oregon State is in this top group of I don't think there's one best team in the division formerly known as the Pac-12 North right now, but Oregon State, Washington State all look extremely competent. And so it's going to be really fun to see if one of those teams can make the Pac-12 championship. I think a lot of people projecting right now USC and Utah making it, but I would not be surprised if it's one of those 4 teams that ends up playing one of those 2 teams at the end of the season. But USC, hey, at the end of the day, the solid verbal guys always say win your clunkers. USC won their clunker. So 4-0 on the season. Everybody circling on their schedule. You got Utah in, I'm like, is it 2 weeks? 3 weeks. 3 weeks you got Utah. So that game at Utah, that'll be the game. But they got Arizona State, which, just fired Herm Edwards. They got Washington State the week before Utah. That is a trappy game. So watch out for that game as well. But big win for USC that just wrapped up. That last touchdown drive was huge. That 4th and 6 play, Caleb Williams. We don't have the Pac-12 network, so we may or may not have been watching on a stream someone posted on Twitter. But a big win for USC to come and win that game. So impressed by both teams. I like Oregon State, obviously, big Jonathan Smith guy. So still my Beavs, proud of the performance, but big win for USC. We have a lot of games to get to, so we got to move on.
So many.
You mentioned, this was not a letdown Saturday. It was not at all. I think a lot of people were like, all right, week 4, slower slate than week 3. I have 12 tabs open of games that I'm like, I need to mention.
We must talk
least.
about, yeah. Right.
Well, let's keep going. Kansas State, Oklahoma. That one was semi-recently as well.
Very good.
Kansas State, you were on this one. You had this as one of your most confident picks on our sheet. I'm sitting there going, you had a few upsets on there, or not upsets, but you had several dogs with points. And I was like, all right, like Wisconsin. I mean, my feelings on Ohio State. And I was like, no way you're getting that one. I was like, Kansas State. I mean, 3 out of 4. I don't like. Oklahoma's going to eventually just treat them like Kansas State, right? Nah,
Right.
man.
You would think.
Chris Kleiman's 3-1 against Oklahoma. What's up?
It's just weird. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. This time picking it was like, that's just too many points for, we don't know this Oklahoma team yet under Brent Venables. They haven't necessarily been tested. I think this is a phenomenal test, and really like this offense running through Adrian Martinez, just how, and Colin Klein being the offensive coordinator and all the callbacks to him. That's just interesting. All the storylines in and of itself. But yeah, it's crazy. It seems like the Kansas State's just that little place that Oklahoma keeps stubbing their toe. They can't quite get past. But I mean, Adrian Martinez having a day. Really at the end of the game to put the final touches on this win and put the nail in the coffin. Had his was it two rushing touchdowns late in the game. And really that third down play was like 3rd and 12, 3rd and 9, something like that. Scrambles for like a 40-yard gain, gets inside the 10. That was really the game clincher before he punched it into the end zone, because it was just able to kind of, take control, get that first down, and end the game on their terms. So impressed with Kansas State. I may have been off on my preseason pick for them, so I'll be interested to see how they continue the rest of this season, if they're going to be a major player in the Big 12, or if this is just a one-off that, hey, they can beat Oklahoma on any given Saturday. So we'll see as the season goes on, but definitely a great game to watch in the nightcap.
It depends on what Kansas State team shows up. Does the team who lost to Tulane last week show up? Because I was feeling pretty good about myself last week, because I feel like Kansas State was everyone's Big 12 darling, and I'm like, that never works out. See Iowa State last 2 seasons. That never works out. And I was like, all right, I'm feeling pretty good that that happens a lot just in general, of just like one team. A lot of sport traders are just like, watch out for Kansas State. Like, they're my dark horse. I'm like,
right.
Everyone's saying it. Anyway, losing to Tulane, I was like, haha, frauds. And then they come back and beat Oklahoma. So shout out to Adrian Martinez as well. Great success story. And the week after Oklahoma just blows Nebraska out of the water, Adrian Martinez gets a win over Oklahoma. So that one has to feel good for him for sure. Oklahoma, I'll highlight 0% havoc rate tonight, 11% run stuff rate. Kansas State was able to do anything they wanted at the line of scrimmage with running the ball. So that meant Oklahoma was not getting any hit. Like, they stopped no one at the line of scrimmage, or behind the line of scrimmage. So they were able to run the ball whenever they wanted. 25% red zone success rate, only 33% third down success rate. So there's the story of Oklahoma losing by a score to Kansas State tonight. Not what you want to see for the Sooners, but luckily they're not the only top 10 team to have rough games this season or this week. Let's keep moving on. A top 10 team that didn't lose, but definitely was on the brink of losing, Clemson. Clemson and Wake Forest go to overtime. Clemson wins 51-45 in overtime, in double overtime. My takeaway here, Daniel, is I was really impressed with Wake Forest, and we all three took Clemson to lay the points. And honestly, the logic of me.
No, I took Wake.
No, you took Wake. Yeah. Sorry, you did take Wake. I was thinking of the list. I was like, there's a lot of all three of us. Shout out, you took Wake.
Yeah.
My logic in taking Clemson was that I think the best medicine for, an offense that's been kind of not amazing yet is Wake's defense. Some really good medicine. And like, while Wake might have a good offense, you're not scoring in Clemson's defense. And Clemson has just treated Wake like they should, even during bad season. Even last year, they went and spanked Wake Forest. And so I was like, Clemson's defense, best unit on the field, 6.5 points. That's only a touchdown. Like, that's fine. And man, Wake was able to move the ball in Clemson's defense, which I don't know if it's both in my mind, but I'm like, is my biggest takeaway? It's the whole, are they good or are they bad? Like,
Yeah.
is Wake's offense really, really good and Clemson's defense is still good? Or Clemson not have their best game, or is Clemson's defense just not as good as we thought they were? I don't know right now, but really, like, I walk away really impressed with Wake. I did not have them in my personal top 25 before this week, and I will move them into the top 20, closer to the top 15, despite the loss.
Yeah, it's crazy because like you come into the 7.5, which is why I was on it because it was more than a touchdown. So I was like, dude, give me that one because I felt like it would get into a scoring match because Jacob, I mean, this is like strength on strength and weakness on weakness. I mean, the sorry Clemson offense versus the sorry Wake defense, and then vice versa. This high flying, skillful Wake offense. Now, I did have a couple of run-ins this week when I was looking at some stuff for information for the Clemson, or excuse me, for the Wake offense. Their offensive line is not very good, and so that got me the most worried. And I was like, I think I'm wrong on this pick, but we'll just ride it out. Then when I checked it today, because I was traveling today, when I was checking through it today, I was like, oh my goodness, they are exchanging scores. This is awesome. So I hate that I missed getting to see that one live. I will definitely be catching up on it as we go forward. But for it to go back and forth the way it did, I mean, Sam Hartman, 6 touchdown passes. That's amazing. To do that on Clemson's defense, I think Sam Hartman's really putting himself out there as like a major, player in college football. And so he needs to be talked about, with the award guys, Davey O'Brien, all these other whatever. He needs to be up there. And then you had DJ had a good day. And it's like, if I'm a Clemson fan, I'm excited because it's like, even against air, it's tough to throw 5 touchdowns. And he did it. And, he started, it helps to get the confidence going so that he can do that in future games. And that if you get in a shootout like this, that your guy can do that for you.
And he looked confident. He has a really, I love, I'll say with this tonight, Daniel, something I love about college football. I love the way the football looks when it's thrown well in college versus the NFL. It's the stripes.
Stripes.
Like, it just looks pretty. When you get a good spiral, that thing looks pretty when it's flying.
Yeah.
DJ throws a pretty ball. Like, he's just big and he throws darts, and he looked confident and he was throwing some really pretty balls against Wake Forest. So that's a big game for his confidence. Clemson, hey, big win to hold off Wake Forest. But again, I'll walk away impressed with Wake despite the loss. Let's go to Knoxville, another ranked on ranked matchup.
Yes.
Tennessee 38, Florida 33. Little mad I didn't get this cover. Had the cover.
You
prevent
deserved
defense. The prevent defense prevents nothing. That's what I always say.
Every old man in the South says that.
Yeah, that's
actually my granddad used to say the prevent defense prevents you from winning.
That's right.
Shout out,
your granddad was right. So honestly, though, impressive showing from Florida, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Comeback game for Anthony Richardson. I mean, they put up over 600 yards of offense on Tennessee. So, yeah, Florida really was able to do whatever they wanted on offense. Defense got a couple of key stops. Best unit on the field was Tennessee's offense. Hinton Hooker looked like a Heisman contender today. He goes 22 of 28 for 350 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, 11.2 yards per play for him. Tennessee had over 8 yards per play as a team. They had, their EPA per play is in the 93rd percentile. So, like, does it sound like a lot when I say 0.3, EPA per play, but in the 93rd percentile, to put it in perspective, they were just dominant today on offense. And I look at Tennessee, I look at their schedule, and I don't know. There's 2 defenses on the schedule that I think can actually, like, slow them down enough where they're not going to score like 35 or more, and that's Alabama and Georgia. And on the flip side, I look at Tennessee's defense, and I'm like, all right, so are those going to be shootout games, or when they play an elite team similar to last year, are they going to get a little bit exposed? But hey, Tennessee proved, I think, today they can go beat every other team in the SEC East.
Yeah.
Like, I think Tennessee can firmly put their name in the conversation of, are they the third best team in the SEC even?
They're up there for sure. For sure. Yeah, this one, I I I was traveling for the game, so I was really trying to keep up with uh, not just the flow of the game, but kind of the tone and the momentum. And Jacob, it seemed like uh, Billy Napier going for two was really the theme here, and where he did it a couple times, and it prevented him at the end from being able to have a potential field goal opportunity to tie the game, where they were having to throw deep, and obviously it led to the turnover interception. So,
It was
curious what you
funny.
think,
The
because like
first time
during the
he,
game, if it seemed like it was out of left field, or if it seemed like, oh, he's just being aggressive, because it didn't really make sense either time that he
no,
did it.
it's the first time he did it, it made sense in that, or excuse me, it didn't make sense. I'm very analytics minded. So I get if you're down 2 scores and you can do something to still go down 2 scores, don't do it. Like if you have the option to go down 1 score, do that thing. So if it's 4th and 2 on your opponent's 20 and you're down 10, like what is like 14, you're down 2 touchdowns, you don't need to kick a field goal. Then you're
Right.
still down 2 scores. Like
Right.
go for it so that you can be down 1 score. But they were down 11 and they went for 2. So math here, Daniel, if you get the 2, you're still down 9. So you still have to score a
Two
touchdown
scores.
and kick a field goal to take the lead. Same thing if you kick the extra point. Same thing. So that one made 0 sense. So then the second time when you score, you're down you're down 5. And so I'm like, okay, extra point. You're like that one made sense. But again, if they had kicked the extra point both times, it was the first one that didn't make sense. If they had kicked the extra point the first time, the second time kicked the extra point, then you're only down 3 because Florida ended up getting the onside
So
kick
they were
at the end of the
chasing
game.
points with the second one, is what you're saying.
Right. Because the second time, again, if they had kicked the extra point the first time, then you're down 10. When they scored this last touchdown, if they had kicked the extra point, then you're down 3. Florida got the onside kick and was in field goal range. And so it's going for it both times and missing it both times. Then you had to score a touchdown to win. That was a lot of rambling.
Do you think this is no? That all makes sense. I think that's helpful for the listeners as they're digesting what he did. Do you think that this, because he's been a head coach before, so far in his Florida career, he's beaten a top 10 team at home. It's AP, so we don't really, but he beat Utah, um, and, and then losing to Kentucky, and then now Tennessee. Do you think that, and then struggling with South Florida, do you think that this was big game jitters, or do you think this is part of his approach uh, as a coach to go for it too? Because I don't remember seeing this with Louisiana, but again, they weren't in very many big major games.
I don't get this one. He was aggressive. They went for it 6 times on 4th down. So, and they got 4 of them. And in some spots it was
So it's like a
crucial that they got
DNA
it.
thing. It's like
But again,
this is who I am.
But when you're talking about points, again, it was the first one that made no sense. And in the end, it potentially cost them the game.
Yeah.
Like that being said, this score is a lot, I think, closer. Both teams played well, but like Tennessee deserved to win this game. Like they kept them in arm's reach the entire game.
Right.
Like and
well, going into it, Tennessee's the better team. Everybody could kind of agree on that for the most part. And for them to be favored like this at with Vegas, I remember thinking going in, I'm like, there's no way. Like Tennessee just doesn't win this game anyways. So I'm just going to take the points and run and hide with Florida, because Tennessee, this is like the boogeyman for them. And I was just like, they're going to find a way to lose it, or it's at least going to be close. And then as the game was going on, I was like, well, dang, I think I made the wrong call. And then backdoor cover, I got bailed out. So I think you were on the right side, but I'm glad that it took the points.
well, and what I thought would happen ended up happening in the second half, which was, David and I talked about Tennessee's the fastest offense in the country. Florida is thin on defense. That will that taking its
Manifest.
toll is gonna
Yeah.
manifest in the second half. And Tennessee got up by 17 in the third quarter. And so it was like first half was a very back and forth. Like I think at halftime, I'm looking here. At halftime it was 17-14 Tennessee. And then it was like they got up 24-14, 24-21, but then it was just like 31-38. Like it was just boom, boom, it stopped them. And it's like, all right, as soon as you get to 17, at that point, you can kind of sit on your lead
Right.
there. But yeah, what I thought would happen happened. I would pick Tennessee again if I had the do-over. So I'll just take the loss there on the cover. But big win for Tennessee and huge because of the games they have coming up. I mean, you're a few Saturdays away from Alabama coming to Knoxville. That'll be a big one. And I think Tennessee has a chance. Texas had a chance. So why can't Tennessee have a chance, right? But big win for Tennessee. All right. We got a few more games to get through, Daniel. Oregon, 44. Washington State, 41. I really thought Washington State was going to run away with this one. And Oregon, shout out, came back and made it happen and almost had the cover. I prematurely tweeted that Oregon had the cover when they ran back to pick 6 and went up 10, but Washington State had to come and slam the door and get the cover. But hey, Oregon, big win. They got punched in the mouth by Washington State early. I mean, they got down 14 against Washington State, and to come back all the way and be up 10 in the fourth quarter, huge comeback, huge for their program. And Oregon now still has everything ahead of them.
Dude, Bo Nix having over 400 yards passing
on the road.
3 touchdowns. I mean, he has an interception, but QBR up there at 87.5%. Just a great showing by him. But then they had several really, great rushing or multiple rushing what am I trying to say? Leaders that really helped them get to this point in the game. But I'm impressed with Oregon for multiple reasons in this game, because this is the obvious kind of a letdown. They're riding high off of beating BYU last week, really controlling that game for the most part. And then this week coming in and it's like, hey, we're down. We need to rely on Bo Nix's arm rather than getting ahead with the running game and really utilizing his legs, and they delivered. So I'm seeing that Oregon can win in different fashions. And so that's going to be big going down the stretch to see how they can do that throughout the Pac-12. But I am definitely impressed with Washington State in this game to even get the lead and to have them on the ropes like that. This is just a fun Pac-12 game. You usually have to wait for after dark for this kind of a performance, but this one was during the day.
Love it. All right. We have 2 more games we have to talk about, and then I just want quick thoughts on a few more games. So Texas 34, Texas Tech 37. Texas Tech gets their first win against Texas at home since 2008 when Michael Crabtree broke the tackle.
Yeah.
And as in that top 10 famous matchup. One of the first plays I remember as a college football fan.
That was a fun
when I was
play.
really getting into it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, big win for Texas Tech. Like 112 plays Texas Tech ran. I'm just looking at some stats and I'm like, Texas Tech only averaged 4.7 yards per play. I mean, which is like in the bottom 20% college football. Their third down success rate was only 35%. Their red zone success rate was only 42%. It wasn't great, but Texas just played worse. And big win for Texas Tech in that program. And my hope for Texas is that they can keep their head up, because we saw again, I was pleased with the response against UTSA last week after losing to Alabama, because of the way they didn't respond to the Oklahoma loss last year.
Right.
But losing this one in overtime, and just brutal to fumble on your first play in overtime, and that be the deciding factor. I hate that that's how it was decided, because Texas's trio of plays to get into field goal range to send it to overtime was perfectly executed. So it sucks that it ended that way, but big win for Texas Tech.
Yeah, this is one where I just looking at it, it seemed a little fishy. It only being a 5.5 point spread. Felt like Texas was like definitely the better team coming in, and it was just kind of that death by a thousand cuts. Texas Tech stayed in it, and you know, I think Texas was. I think that if they could do it over, would have wanted to give Bijan Robinson the ball a little bit more. He was very effective in the carries that he had, obviously over 100 yards, and just he had 16 carries and 2 touchdowns. But like I think that um, just the flow of the game, they had to air it out a little bit, and then it just got down to that point in the game where unfortunately, like you said, they fumbled in overtime, because I do think that had there not been a fumble, I think we may have been in a scoring match of just kind of similar to what was going on with Clemson and Wake, where you're just waiting for one team to get the stop, which I guess the fumble is the stop, but it kind of feels more anticlimactic than an actual defensive stand. So, but definitely a fun one. And I mean, it's just you can't overlook anybody in the Big 12 because that team, I think it's the middle class in the Big 12 is growing because everybody's in the middle class right now. There's not one elite team with Oklahoma getting knocked off today. You know, Baylor holding on, against Iowa State, but still there's not really that one team that you just feel like you can hang your hat on. This is the team to beat in the Big 12. I bet you if you asked 10 different beat writers across the country who's the best team in the Big 12, you'd probably get close to 10 different answers.
Which is fun for college football. I love
Right.
it. It'll be an exciting conference race down the stretch. All right, last thing we have to talk about: Arkansas 21, Texas A&M 23. Thank God for
Dude.
the hook on the 2.5. So this means the WTF game of the week is 2-1 against the spread. So we got a winning record there. 1-2 straight up. We got to get that turned around. I mean, we will have more opportunities. I can promise you. But man, I think the wrong team won. I know that's not how it works in college football, but that was the freakiest freak fumble scoop and score that I think I've ever seen. And that was the difference of the game. Because if you look at the stat sheet, it's just it's Arkansas. It's Arkansas up and down.
Yeah.
And a couple mistakes in the game. KJ Jefferson played a great game again. Now, A&M's defense was great.
I was going to say both defenses played a really good game, havoc-wise, just the lines of scrimmage-wise. They were both in the backfield for most of the game.
A-Chain had a great game. He was A&M's best player. KJ Jefferson was once again Arkansas's best player. But the defenses played great. I mean, is that the freakiest fumble score you've ever seen? 99 yards?
Yeah. That and it's one of those things where it just completely, changes the complexion of the game. I don't even want to say momentum because I still feel like Arkansas was coming out hitting them in the mouth, still doing Arkansas things, but it just changes just exactly how the game was portrayed. Now it's a Texas A&M win when Arkansas is like, hey, wait a second, we're the we just beat them up,
And that is a minimum 10-point swing.
Yeah.
Because at the you're literally at the 1.
Yeah.
Like that is a that is a goal line.
You're at least chipping in that field goal. Yeah.
Now for Arkansas, you got Bama coming to town next week.
Yeah.
So for their sake, I hope they can get over this loss fast. A win there, obviously it would be great to be carrying some undefeated momentum into that game on Saturday. But maybe that's what Arkansas needed to just prepare for Alabama on Saturday. That game at 3:30 on CBS next week. So looking forward to watching that one. We will definitely be talking about that game next week. That will be one of the games we talk about. All right, Daniel, I want quick quick hitters on the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games. All right, here we go.
Oh God. Okay. All right. Quick
Kansas
hitters.
35, Duke 27.
Dude, basketball is back. But
Shout out to Jalen Daniels. Great game. Shout out to Duke and the points. 9 was
I'm
too
just
many.
glad both of these teams are winning games. So this was interesting to keep an eye on the whole time. So also glad I took Duke plus the 9. So
Love it. Middle Tennessee 45, Miami 31.
oh my gosh. Yeah. It's just yet another one of these games that we find out a team gets paid $1.5 million to come down and beat you, and also $40,000 of travel expenses. So the Cristobal era is not going to be one without, some hardship here to start. So he'll definitely have to earn it down here at Miami. It's not going to be something that's just handed to him. So this loss is just part of that process.
Middle Tennessee 507 total yards, 8.3 yards per play. That's all you need to know.
Oof.
Notre Dame 45, North Carolina 32.
Glad for Marcus Freeman.
Marcus Freeman.
Yeah, I was like, I was trying to say Marcus Howard.
figured
I'm like, that's not him. Yeah, Marcus Freeman. Glad to get him in the win column again. And I think it's still tough because I don't think either one of these teams we really still know what they are. Notre Dame, obviously with a backup quarterback doing this kind of stuff. We will see as the season goes on if they're going to be able to kind of weather that storm from what's already occurred. So,
as it turns out, you know what's better medicine than playing Wake's defense? Playing North Carolina's defense. That's great medicine for an offense.
That definitely helps.
Minnesota 34, Michigan State 7.
The only team in the Big Ten East that hasn't got the memo for being dominant is Michigan State. So I don't know what's going on, but yeah, Minnesota, this is the team that we thought we knew in 2020 and they weren't, and they're kind of showing up a little bit more now. So impressive win to go and do this to Michigan State. So I'm impressed with Minnesota. If I'm Michigan State, I'm asking, what did I just pay for with Mel Tucker? Did we jump the gun? Is he still the right guy? Not that he's on the hot seat because you owe him a lot of money. So
impressed with Minnesota's defense, holding Michigan State to 234 yards, just 5 yards a play. So impressive showing. Right now, best team in the Big Ten West. And they're undefeated. Rank Minnesota. All right. Oh, already said Duke, Kansas. Said takes off 1. Baylor 31, Iowa State 24.
It's kind of on brand for both teams. I don't think that I wasn't super impressed with either one outcome wise. I will say that I think that Iowa State's a little better than we thought. So this is a bigger deal for Baylor to get this win. Baylor's pushing to try to be that top 10 or that top team in the Big 12. So just another, W check in the win column. So
there were 2 other games that were in the running for my WTF game of the week. In third place was Minnesota, Michigan State. Thank God I backed off that. The other was Iowa State, Baylor. So both were like the home team was, laying points, and I thought Baylor was better. Anyway, so big win for Baylor. Another overtime game. Missouri 14, Auburn 17.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch this one, but I heard that this game was handed. I went and looked at the total yards, and I'm just wondering what the heck happened. As someone on Twitter put, Brian Harson's job is safe for yet another week. So escapes with a win against Missouri.
I'm curious if this matters. Like, if you're going to fire him, why does beating Missouri in overtime by 3 be like, not this week. Like, just get rid of him. If you know you're going to get rid of him, like
Right.
I heard someone say though that there's some boosters who want him to eat his medicine, and just get to the Georgia game and just go wear that loss on the way out, which is kind of funny. But Missouri, man, college kickers, I put on Twitter, it's first and Harson's fired tomorrow for Missouri. Like it was first and goal and like from the 3. And then instead of playing for the touchdown, they played for the field goal and missed it. Like,
you just can't do that.
Like over a minute left. Stop playing. Just score. And it won't matter. Just score.
Just run your best play from that yard point.
And here's the thing, hand the ball off. You don't have to do some crazy, 2 reverses. Hand the ball off 3 times and then be like, okay, now we'll kick. Yeah, anyway, they blew that game. So 2 more. TCU 42, SMU 34. Sonny Dykes.
Yeah, he's beaten his old team. And I'm at this point with TCU, I was high on them, before the season. I think they're kind of getting a little shade. I think that this is a good win to get as they keep going through, like this Big 12. Like I said, we've been stacking it up. This is just going to be kind of a remarkable finish because they're all going to cannibalize each other because they all play each other. So we'll see as this goes. And then, as far as SMU goes, they're still going to have to build back. But this rivalry is always one of the more fun ones because it's usually high flying offense, and that definitely delivered today.
Shout out to Sonny Dykes winning the Sonny Dykes Bowl. Last one. Georgia Tech 10, UCF 27. So the question here is, let's play, when does Jeff Collins get fired? I've picked my date. I don't think it's tomorrow. It could be though. But here's where the drought, he will not go past October 9th. Because Duke comes to play Tech October 8th. And that was one of the ACC wins they were counting on. And Duke is going to crush Georgia Tech. I mean, Duke's good. So there's no way he makes it past October 9th as Georgia Tech's head coach.
UCF beat Georgia Tech by 3 scores with only 49 passing yards.
That's a Gus Malzahn special.
Yes. So that's the Gus plus offense right there. John Reese Plumlee, 100 yards rushing. Bowser 70 yards, Harvey 70 yards. So, but total offense, they're still just over 300 yards of offense as far as the UCF. So Georgia Tech relatively did a good job containing it defensively. But yeah, and there's been talk, the whole Jeff Collins getting fired thing, it will happen this year. I do think the next person that takes this job will have an easier job than what he had. I'm not going to make any excuses for him, though, because winning 3 games each year is just not going to cut it. And with losses to the Citadel, Northern Illinois, it's just these teams that it's like if you just won your cupcakes and then, you go 6 and he should have at least been to a bowl game by now. That's really what it's come down to. So if I think if Duke would be the nail in the coffin for sure. This one they were a 21-point dog. They should have lost this game. They covered. So
he lives to fight another week.
I haven't looked at the numbers yet, but I don't know if there's a big drop at all for the buyout at any point this season.
There's not.
So I don't think that it matters. Okay. So yeah, they're going to definitely fire before then. So Duke would be a good one to call. Duke, or if not that, then I think 2 weeks later they play Virginia. Either one of those.
They got Pitt this week, and Narduzzi does not like Collins.
That's another thing. It's like teams are trying to rub it in against you because they don't like your coach, there's a problem. You know, teams tend to take it easy on, on coaches they like in some aspects, but nobody likes Jeff Collins. So but the funny thing is he came in and I felt like he was doing everything right from a opposite of Paul Johnson, where he was marketing, he was, really pumping up the recruiting, raising the budget, getting the new gear, doing all the stuff. It's just there's something you got to do with that, and it's win games. So if you're not going to win games, all that other stuff, it's just not going to amount to much. So, there's been those whispers about Deion Sanders and different things like that. That'd be crazy. I don't know if Georgia Tech's got quite the cachet to do something like that. If they do, I mean, more power to them. That'd be huge. But this is still a good job. And, it's an ACC job. And I think, like I said, whoever comes in next will have an easier job to get to, being at least a bowl team and then starting to get back on the right track, because they're not going to have to remake the whole roster like Jeff Collins had to. So, but he did do less than he should have with this transition. It should have been better.
All right, Daniel, that wraps up week 4. We had a lot of games to get to, but hey, college football, a lot of teams, a lot of games, and all of them needed to be mentioned. But we'll be back in just a few days for our week 5 preview. Be sure to follow us on social media at the Extra Point Pod. You can follow him on Twitter at Deep South Daniel. You can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Carnes with a K. And that will do it for this edition of the Extra Point. He is Daniel. I'm Jacob.